All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Oh! This is the podcast!
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a podcast?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and
podcast.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Get to the Podcast. My name is Diego D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
Thou shall not pass.
Wow. Thou shalt not pass. You
I
shall
was about to say
not
I'm Carl
pass.
Nielsen.
Was it thou? Or was it you?
Carl Nielsen. It's like, hi ladies, I'm Frack. Shit. Okay. So,
Well,
That was a It's Always Sunny reference. Sorry.
yeah, we drop those too often. Diego loves that
People
show.
should watch that show.
yeah. All the 2 episodes I watched.
Wait, is it it's not thou shalt not pass, it's you shall not pass, right?
You
shall
not pass.
I have
You just
no
have
clue.
to hear Ian McKellen in your mind.
My God, Lord of the Rings movies are so fucking good.
Yeah.
It was on I was watching it again the other day. I'm just like, these movies.
Did you just have an orgasm when you said that?
I'm
Can you
orgasm
not?
like every
How can
every
you
second
not?
sentence.
How can you not?
It's like, seriously, those Lord of the Rings movies are fucking. I watched them and I'm like, this, like, how did they catch lightning in a bottle for 3 full fucking length movies?
I
Like,
think
long movies too,
Yeah.
and it's so hard to do with 2 hours worth of content.
I want to say it was necessity.
Yeah,
I think they were like under so much pressure to either
they were
like
hungry.
completely fail or to like make this thing fucking work.
It was
And
make
they made
break
it work.
of
They made it
New
work,
Line,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
New Line was basically
New
like
Line was
this is gonna-
bankrupt.
right?
They were literally gonna shut down, and they were like, "Fuck it, let's take all our money and put it in New Zealand for this fucking 2 movies." Originally, it was gonna be 2,
The last
all 3
hurrah,
books. And then, like the first film was coming together, and they'd done 15 months of shooting, and then they were like, "Fuck it, let's do 3 films." I think the first film was such a success that they were like, "We're doing 3," or somewhere like when they were editing or something like that. That was when the decision was made.
For
But
Hobbit.
originally, it was 2. No, for Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the
Rings.
It was originally 2 films.
Oh, you mean
Peter
okay.
Jackson pitched 3, but they were like, we don't have the money. I think they gave him like, it was not a lot of money at the time. Maybe it was $200 million.
Okay.
I guess it's decent. But for 3 movies,
Yeah.
3 huge budget films,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
That's a lot.
The history is
They
crazy.
banked on that. Like if that had failed,
On a total unknown. I mean, Frighteners director.
Yeah.
Like,
no, he wasn't.
What?
He wasn't a known entity at that
Yeah.
point. That's like John. What is that? John Mars or whatever. What was that movie that came out?
John Carter.
John
John
Carter.
Carter,
Yeah,
yeah.
from
I
Mars.
like that
John Carter.
movie.
It was good, but like that, it could have been a movie like that. It's like forgettable. Like nobody really. It just didn't
Well,
end up
Lord of the
capturing
Rings,
anything.
though, is-
Cowboys and aliens. I'm just saying, you dump all this money into that movie, hoping it's gonna be, and it doesn't even make its money back.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings could have done that, but it didn't. It just ended up being phenomenal. Like that is those movies. I just look at them as one movie. Honestly, that's what I do. Kind of like Kill Bill. I just put them
Yeah.
as one movie, and I would put those in my top 10. Like if I did do a top 10, Lord of the Rings movies has to be in there.
I would say like Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite of the 3.
Right.
Like I can isolate that film and just watch that one over.
It's
and
funny,
over
yeah,
and over
because
again.
I don't see them as individual films. I see them as one.
They all feel
'cause they-
different to me.
yeah.
I really liked
don't feel
Return of the King.
different?
No. I mean, I know the difference between the films, but no, they're just one long story.
You know what it is?
They were filmed back to back, and that's why they feel that.
Do you have
way.
the extended editions that are like
I
15
do. I
discs?
have them on
Have you
Blu-ray, and I
watched them
haven't
like
watched them
12
yet.
hours per
No.
film? Because I have. So that like shifts your whole
Does
like
it?
understanding like what was involved in the filming and the editing of the first film, and then when they went to do reshoots for Two Towers and like how things changed and the special effects got better, and then Return of the King was like. They invested so much more in CG
Right.
and like, the budget and bringing the actors back to reshoot stuff and altering the story and
Right.
cutting
And-
these scenes out. Like it really, you could see how the films changed quite a bit from
Right.
from what they were supposed to be, like Two Towers to Return of the King, as the films were successful.
Right. And now they're making this Amazon show
Yeah.
which I don't know exactly what they're gonna do. Silmarillion kind of stuff, Lord of the Rings, but
$1 billion.
they're literally like, is it nearly $1 billion or $1 billion?
No,
that
I
they're
think
putting into
it's
this?
reached the $1 billion.
That is
'Cause
incredible.
the 500 million mark was at 3 episodes.
yeah,
They
they're putting
paid
like
$200 million
or
to
250
the
or something.
Tolkien family. Was it 250?
Yeah, 250, 200 or whatever,
That's
just
a
for the rights alone.
Pay or play? What do they call
It's
it?
a pay or play deal, isn't it? Like they
have,
if they
have
don't
2
make
years
it
to like make.
if they don't make
show.
it by a certain time or whatever, Tolkien Estate gets to keep the money and
they
they don't
lose
get
the
to create
rights.
and they lose the rights. It's like fucking Jesus, Jeff Bezos, man. But that the show is gonna be really interesting. But there's this thing. Okay, you had Lord of the Rings, which were incredible, and the last film won like 11 or 13 Academy Awards, Return of
had
the King.
to.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
now you have this new show coming out. But in between, you had a problem. You had the Hobbit films.
Oh yeah, that's right. There were Hobbit films.
Yeah.
I completely forgot
Now,
about that. No.
I did enjoy the Hobbit films. I think it's not fair to say those movies are trash or shit.
Oh,
or
I
anything
don't
like
think
that.
they were trash
They're
or
really
shit
good
at all.
movies. It's just when in comparison to what they were able to do with Lord of the Rings, they weren't able. It did feel like it was set in the same world. I think they did a good job of doing that. Where I did watch those films like this feels like an extension of Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings.
Yeah.
But there were issues where they just weren't. They didn't become classic films like Lord of the Rings.
Well, so this whole argument came about. I mean, this discussion came about because I watched these. I randomly stumbled across this YouTuber, this film critic on YouTube named Lindsay Ellis.
Right.
And she did a 3-part series that called, I think it's like a Hobbit trilogy autopsy.
Yeah,
or
each
something.
one of them. Yeah, each one called something else. She was only supposed to do 2 videos, and then, the studio called and they're like, "You have to do 3 films now, three videos."
Yeah,
It's
but
reflecting what
it's interesting.
happened with The Hobbit.
Her comparisons from like classic films to and like even social things that were going on and like her life and how she grew up with Fellowship of the Ring and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it made her interested in doing what she does today and getting
Right. involved
involved in film. And it's just she ties a lot of the. You know, in the third video she just recently released like a week ago or something, she talks a lot about like fanboyism and just like, you know, being a fan of something and how that nostalgia like taps into your childhood and just overall films in general and the effect that certain films will have on a child later in life and how as an adult, you try to watch a film like that and you try to go back to being a child to have that experience that you had, that amazement and wonder that you had as a child watching that
Right.
film. But it's hard as an adult to go back and re-experience that. And she kind of talks about like how The Hobbit, some of that is the reason The Hobbit wasn't as well received because I think a lot of the people that enjoyed it at that time period were of a certain age and they kind of like absorbed it in a certain way, but then
now you're
that's
adults
not,
or whatever. Yeah,
that's just one
One
facet
aspect of it.
Anyway,
She
you
breaks
guys
it-
should
she-
totally check it out. It's a fantastic.
I saw the
series.
first. I watched the first 2 videos actually
Yeah.
because you had told me about it. So I was like, oh, let me check these out because I'm interested in it. And she really analyzes and breaks it down. I think she does a good job of it. She doesn't just dig into one.
Wish I would have
portion of it.
known.
Yeah.
Well, he actually did tell you about it a
No.
couple weeks ago. He did, Diego. You blank out on like half
When?
of the content.
It may have
was
just
2
been like
weeks
a
ago.
passing
It may have
conversation
even
or
been in one of
something,
our
yeah.
episodes. He may have mentioned it. It was a couple like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever. He
Yeah.
mentioned it, and that's what I remember. Is like we were talking about it. He mentioned it. I was like, oh, I made a mental note of it.
Yeah.
I don't remember, so it's not real.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
That's
That's
fact.
how I feel sometimes.
I know that's how you feel.
State of fact.
But I mean, she brings up points. You know, we're not going to just talk about all the videos she did, but we're going to bring up some of the points she brings up. I
Yeah.
think in terms of because if they're going to make these Lord of the Rings movies, I think they need to look at what the movies did, but then the Lord of the Rings movies, and they need to also look at what the Hobbit movies did, and just make sure they don't make the same mistakes. And I think one of the biggest things they need to make sure, which I'm sure they're doing, is they got to make sure they have enough time and work put into the pre-production. Because that is part of what happened here is that Guillermo del Toro spent 18 months on pre-production for the Hobbit films. He was only
Wasn't it
going
more
to do
than
2.
that? It was like almost 3 years.
I think it was 18 months.
Yeah.
Only 18
Yeah.
months.
And
So
maybe
crazy.
2 years tops, but I think it was 18 months. And he'd spent all this time. He was going to be the directors of the films. Peter Jackson was just going to be a producer. Guillermo del Toro was going to do different movies that were going to feel different. They were going to be more his style.
They
accurate
should've-
to the
he
Hobbit.
should've
It was
done
gonna
it.
focus on the
They
dwarves.
should- I
it's
think
gonna
they should've
focus
stayed
on
with
that
him.
Yeah.
Companionship.
And
There
then-
wasn't going to be a female love interest because there is no female
Yeah.
love interest in the Hobbit.
But so he had all this pre-production, and he had all these, like what the Hobbits were going to look like, all the, what the stories were, the scripts, everything. He was just kind of really working on creating and crafting that world. And it's going to be very whimsical.
Yeah.
And then there was this creative differences thing that happened where they wanted it to be more tied into the Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah.
And they wanted that connection. And he was like, nah, bro. Like, I don't want to do that, son.
Yeah.
And he said it.
That's exactly how he said it.
the thing
Nah,
that's so
G.
interesting is that
Can't be doing that.
the Hobbit book that was written came out,
Yeah.
and then years later, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote. He wrote
Lord
The
of the
Hobbit
Rings.
for his children.
Yes.
because they were children
It's a
at the
kid's
time.
story.
It's a kid's story. It's a story you can read a chapter to your kids every night until you finish the book.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings came out. It's like this fucking 3-book epic. The Fellowship of the Ring
For
is
adults.
like 200 pages longer than The Hobbit or something by itself.
By itself, yeah.
And these things were written for his kids because now they were adults.
Right.
He wanted to write like this epic tale for his kids that was like for an adult
It was effectively
audience.
the first fantasy book written
It
for
was.
adults.
Yeah.
Well, here's-
I mean, you had like Beowulf. You had short stories and
Yeah.
stuff like that were popular
But
with
like
adults.
a big
but yeah.
epic saga, that is now popular now with
He
like
changed the
real time.
whole fantasy
They shouldn't have
genre.
switched. I don't think they should have brought back Peter Jackson. Here's the thing. I think Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
He was correct. It shouldn't be tie-in because it's so. Here's the elements that you're fighting against, and 3 fucking epic films
Yep.
Yeah.
that were like they are in pedestal. They're probably in pedestals for the rest of time.
Yeah. Some of the greatest films ever made.
And you want to try to try to redo something like that. Most of the time, it's not even gonna come close.
Right.
And I feel like there were so many elements that in Hobbit that were in Lord of the Rings that were epic in Lord of the Rings that became I've seen that before in the Hobbit, and I think it helped make the Hobbit not to fail.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I don't want to say fail because it didn't fail, but
It
not to be
definitely
as
didn't
successful.
fail. Those
Yeah.
movies made like over $1 billion.
And I saw
Not
them
as
all in
successful.
theaters, and I
I
did
saw all
enjoy
3 of
them
them too, yeah.
And I gotta tell you, the thing they did in the first film
I
with
felt
I
weird.
saw 48 frames per second.
I saw all
3D.
3 of them in 48.
I thought
3D.
they only did the first one that way.
No, I think
They only did the
all
first
3.
one.
In
No,
48
just the
frames
first
per
one. Are you
second.
sure?
Yeah.
In the higher
Or maybe
frames
Because it
I
didn't
saw the
work
last
out.
2
There was so
IMAX
much
3D.
Yeah, you probably saw
backlash.
IMAX 3D.
I
yeah.
love the 48. A lot of
I
people
gotta
hated
tell
it.
you.
They got sick and shit. I was like,
I
this
know,
is
yeah.
awesome.
There was so much backlash
It was
against it.
better
they didn't
3D
do
than
it.
It was crazy.
It was
Wait,
crazy.
did you like it?
I liked it actually.
Did you like
but
it?
I need
The 48? No, I didn't like it.
Okay, but here's the
Really?
thing. I had to watch it.
It was like
after
looking
I
out
watched
that
it.
window. Like
No,
that's
but
how,
I felt like I was looking at toy sets.
Yeah, I could see that. But I had to watch. I watched
alright.
it after
I
the
didn't feel
first
that
film.
way.
I watched it. I saw the first film regular, like 2D, and then I went like a few days later and then saw it in a higher frame rate. So it was my second viewing. I watched that
Okay.
way, and I don't know. I would have wanted that my first time, but I thought it was really cool that I was like, oh, this is another way to watch movies, and the motion blur was gone. The 3D
it was surreal.
so immersive.
I
It
felt
was
like
like
I was
looking through a fucking window.
A
Yeah.
window
Yeah.
into this world. It was like the CG. I thought, yeah, that you
like a
could tell,
stage
like,
play.
yeah, you could tell,
Yeah.
like the things that stood. What's interesting, I read a whole article about this, the 48 frames per second, and like you could see weird things like you could see the prosthetics on some of the
Yeah.
actors like woggle around.
Makes
or
it a lot
something.
harder, yeah.
You could see out like problems with the film.
Yeah.
Because of the 48. Like
Yeah.
the 24 frames like hit all that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
But like when it was 48 frames per second, you could see that things were unrealistic. And that took me out a little bit. And
Yeah.
then the CG also, you were like instantly aware like what was CG and what
Right.
wasn't. But still, just it felt more the fluidity.
Yep.
It felt more real.
Yeah, and they
film
filmed that
doesn't
in-
feel real. It doesn't feel
They
like real
filmed
life.
that movie, at least the first one. I think they did all of them with 3D cameras. So
Yeah.
it was actually filmed in 3D.
Yeah, it
which
wasn't,
lent
like, done
itself-
after the fact, yeah.
And I think it was actually even done in 48 frames per
Yeah, it was.
40,
It was
that
filmed, yeah.
filmed that way. So I actually really did enjoy it because I was like, this is so unique.
The problem
but
is
I can
they're-
see
they're
that I would never
gonna
want to see
release
every
it.
movie that way.
But we're never going to get that, though.
No.
They're never going to release a format that's 48 frames per second. to
They
play on
won't,
what?
and nobody's gonna want that. Really, it's a gimmick in a way, but it was a cool gimmick. I
Yeah.
did like it. I wouldn't mind seeing a movie here and there if it's done right.
I wouldn't be
done that
surprised
way.
if Cameron's Avatar 2, 3, 4 are all 48 frames or something.
I don't know if he's a
crazy
48
shit.
frames. I've never heard him talk about that. He's a 3D guy, but I've never seen him talk
They are
about
going to
that.
be in 3D, although everybody's like 3D should die. But
Yeah.
you know that
3D 's
Avatar
not
shit's
gonna
going to be in
It's never
3
gonna die.
fucking D.
I know. No, but they are working on brightening these fucking 3D.
Yeah,
show
that has
because-
been a
because
problem. I've
that-
seen
I
some
don't want to wear
3D and it's
sunglasses
dark
inside a
as
dark
shit.
room and watch a fucking movie. That's what you do, and it's annoying. They're actually working on fixing that.
So
yeah,
so I think it was 2 years ago. I had this guy bring in this technology to work because we film tech stuff. He actually brought this device where you hook up to your TV, and it actually creates a 3D without glasses.
Really?
It was any film, and I don't know how it did it. It was fucking film, and they sell it for like $1,500. It was pretty cool, and I
Wow.
see that, and I'm like, how can they implement that shit in theaters?
Right.
You know, so but then
there,
you like
there are a
there's-
couple screens, I think, in South Korea Samsung is actually basically
Testing.
installed these like 200-inch screens or something like that. Like they're smaller screens, but it's actually some technology where it's 3D without glasses. Apparently, it's incredible.
Yeah,
like
that's what
it's
I heard.
better than anything. But there have been like 5 or 6 theaters where they install this.
I would love that.
I'd love to
3D
see it
without
just
glasses?
to see what the technology looks like.
I don't
if
like the
it's,
glasses,
you know-
especially if you wear glasses.
Yeah, and if you could sit at any angle in the room
Yeah.
and it still looks good, you don't get that double vision shit.
That double vision
I'd be
shit-
okay with 3D.
That double
Yeah.
vision shit. What is with that? I'm like, come on, guys, 2018, get your shit together. Like, and also,
saw
if you wear
Terminator
glasses, I don't wear
2.
sunglasses over your glasses.
Remember we saw Terminator 2 Judgment
Yeah,
was
the
re-released in
re-release.
3D?
That
I
was
thought that
cool.
looked great, but we were sitting like right in dead center.
We were.
Dead
And
center
James
was like-
Cameron oversaw that, and he's probably he's a bit of a
Oh
perfectionist.
yeah, he did
so-
Titanic in 3D,
Yeah.
re-released and all
Right,
that.
but anyway, so that the Hobbit. So they're obviously not going to do that with the Lord of the Rings show. But other issues. So they had this pre-production thing done by Guillermo del Toro, and then when he wanted to go his way, and they were like, "No, we don't fucking want that." He's like, "But this is the way I want to do it." They effectively he fired him, or he left, or it was mutual, whatever. And then Peter Jackson came in and had to direct.
No, well, he said that he was leaving, but I got the impression that like it was
You
almost
never
like
know what
MGM
actually
was
happened.
holding out for Jackson.
Yeah, maybe.
Like it was weird. Like when Guillermo del Toro left, it was like 2 months later.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson was like, "I'm directing."
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he was directing.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like I announced it and then like a year went by of pre-production. Like he literally was on set with the actors directing like 3 months after.
Yeah, but he
Guillermo del Toro
scrapped
walked
all
away.
of Guillermo del Toro's pre-production, so he
Yeah.
didn't even use it. That means he had to
They
literally
had to build everything from
build
scratch.
everything, but and
while
it was
they
on
were
the
making it.
fly.
It was
While
like-
they were making it,
Yeah.
they're making up this huge, epic fantasy film on the fly. You can't do that.
No,
the
you
whole
can't. You
making
cannot
of
do
these
that.
movies is
Yeah,
more
you-
interesting to me than the movies
They are
themselves.
interesting. I was
Like, it's
following
so
the
Yeah.
diaries.
crazy.
I was following the video journals when he was putting them out regularly
Yeah.
while the movie's being made.
Yeah.
I thought they're fascinating. I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
But
building the train track like as the train.
yeah,
was going
right
down
ahead of the
fucking-
right ahead of the train barreling down the tracks.
Yeah.
You're installing the fucking trestle
Oh,
and everything.
When
It's
you watch
crazy.
a bunch of
Yeah.
the making of the film stuff, like you can see Peter Jackson is just like I don't know what's
The 1,000-yard
he's
stare,
Just,
he's like, "Ugh."
yeah, he's just
Looks
completely exhausted. They
Apparently, he didn't want to direct him. That's what I don't know if that's
Well,
been confirmed, but like
No, he
just-
did say after Lord of the Rings, there was an interview after the Lord of the Rings series
didn't
that
wanna
he
do-
didn't want to do he didn't want to invest himself in such long
Yeah,
projects.
he spent so many years.
Yeah, and
doing-
spent so many years.
But when you
Lord of the Rings.
when you like start to research that what went down, you kind of understand why he did it, and it was more for New Zealand than for himself or anything else. It was like
They weren't going to film.
It was almost like they were like Warner Brothers. This is what the rumor is that Warner Brothers is basically like, well, fuck you. We're not going to film in New Zealand. We're going to film in like Prague.
If,
or,
if,
like,
you, if
the
you're
Czech
not part of the
Republic or
production,
something.
there's no reason to do it in New Zealand. So we're gonna just get another director.
Yeah.
We're gonna film somewhere else.
And the Prime Minister of New Zealand was like, "Oh, we ain't losing that fucking Hobbit money, motherfucker! Like New Zealand is,
we're
you
gonna
know,
fucking withdraw
Middle-earth,
your
like-
citizenship if you
Yeah.
don't fucking
Yeah.
direct these goddamn
on
movies.
planet Earth, New Zealand is Middle Earth.
Yeah.
So every Hobbit thing has got to be done here because that's it's. I guess their
It's
tourist
boom
industry
their
is just
tourism. Like you
and-
go there
and
in the
film.
airport, they have a huge.
All
you
the
know,
Avatar films are being
statues.
shot in New Zealand. All the
Are
new
they?
Avatar films.
Are they
Yes.
really?
Look up how many films have been shot in New Zealand. Like I think Thor
Since
Ragnarok
then?
was shot there.
Wow, that's awesome.
Like so many of these big American blockbusters are now being shot there it's because of this Hobbit law that was passed that ties into the film.
Hobbit law.
Yeah.
What's the Hobbit law?
So they
You
basically
must be this high to ride.
It's like a tax. It's like did you? Anyway.
tax write off? What?
Yeah, it was like a tax credit. It's essentially like this huge discount that filmmakers get for filming in
Incentive.
New Zealand, and you don't have to pay the actors like shit. Like you can basically hire all the new. I'm like whispering. You can,
whispering is like-
guys.
Watch
hear the
this
shit?
shit be real, and Neil
can
gets a
hire-
phone call.
They just throw New Zealand slaves at these fucking
You're gonna start
Hollywood
getting
productions.
You're gonna get ads. You're gonna
Like-
get ads on your phone.
I know it's true. This fucking phone's listening to everything. You basically can go down there and hire like if you were to hire Industrial Light and Magic in the U.S., you would pay like 10 times what you would pay in New Zealand and get
Right.
the exact same quality. Like you can go down to New Zealand, have special effects done, have prop work, have like set builders, and pay them like 1/10 what you
Right.
would have to pay a unionized American or European person that works in the film industry. That's what this fucking law
So it's all
is.
the way across the world,
They're
but
trying
it's
to
cheaper
repeal
to do
it right
so-
now, basically.
Really?
Yeah, they love the work, but they're like, we're getting. I don't want to use the term, but we're getting like
Put over
screwed
a barrel. Yeah, they've been butt
Wow.
fucked.
All right, well, yeah,
Well, that's the
sure.
word, that's the
like,
word.
like basically, they're doing like better, like the same or better quality work on the films that they're working on, the like production crew, but they're getting like 1/10 or like less
Wow.
than what anyone else in the industry gets because they're all covered by like union laws and they have like SAG and Anyway,
Wow.
it's crazy.
That is crazy. But that is effectively why he took on those movies, was to make sure they were kept in New Zealand. Like it was a loyalty to his country.
It's like a weird thing because
And honestly, it was his baby to a degree. I mean,
yeah, it
in a
brought
way.
all these Hollywood films to New Zealand, but like still all the guys that work on the film in New Zealand, like the New Zealand locals who work on these films, like, are the ones that are getting screwed. Like all the, Warner Brothers is making billions, the investors are making billions, the actors are making good money.
The country's making good money.
But
Like
the locals, the people that work
the economy's got to
locally,
be boosted.
I mean, I'm sure it helps, and it's nice to have consistent work. But if you're getting paid a fraction of what your equivalent in the U.S.,
Well, those
or
are
your
the jobs,
equivalent in
yeah. But I
Europe
mean, the
is getting
tourism attractions themselves, and like they have Hobbiton really set up there now, and they have all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
People are
Well, they
flying
built
to New
like a
Zealand.
permanent set, yeah.
We know people we know some people who went there for their honeymoon, right? John
Yeah.
and Jen went there for their
Yeah.
honeymoon. They went to fucking New Zealand for that reason.
Yeah, to visit
You know?
like the sites. Like there's many
Oh, wow,
locations
that's cool.
you can visit. Yeah.
Yeah, the Shire is all there. They
The
left
Shire's
them,
there.
and the Hobbit, because that was all torn down.
Well, that was done
they
intentionally.
They were built for the Hobbit, and then
Yeah.
they were left there.
They specifically had they worked with the prime minister. This is how political this film was. They literally, the prime minister was like, hey, if you guys, I don't know if it was his idea, but they were like, if you're going to build this set, why not make it permanent?
Start that again.
This is
do
my
the
conspiracy.
Accent, do the accent again. Hey.
This is a shady
Hey,
prime
yo.
minister of
Yeah.
New Zealand talking to Peter Jackson. Hey, guy,
Yeah, we gotta do the New Zealand accent.
you got any more of those Shires you want to?
You sound like
You got any more of those?
1950s New York. Hey, you's got any more of them little hobbits in the
This is like,
Shires?
that's my go-to bad guy.
Oh,
he
so
was
he's-
like, hey, so, hey.
Hey.
Um,
So
You want to build a permanent Hobbiton,
Right.
And then we could turn into a tourist attraction and just make shit tons of money with all
dude,
these.
I would
foreigners
fucking
coming.
do that. I would go to New Zealand because
I
of
love
those
it, but
movies.
I'm like, it's sad because you're like the exploitation and like all the people that are suffering as a result.
right. At least
the
that,
local New Zealanders anyway.
right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure.
and the
Hopefully, they will
actors.
change that. I'm sure there's.
Well, they're trying to repeal the law currently.
Okay. All right.
Apparently, it's up for repeal. The guy who was there, the prime minister, is no longer in power. There's another
Okay.
guy. And so who knows if it's going to get repealed or not. But it's just interesting. It's like, oh, shit. Like, look at this, this film had such an impact on the economy.
yeah.
Of it. Like, and in a weird way, it's like a great thing because you associate the Lord of the Rings universe with New Zealand, but it's also an awful thing because now all the independent filmmakers that like have nothing to do with that
Yeah.
are like, well, no, New Zealand's not just Lord of the Rings. It could be
Right.
other things, and nobody wants to think of it as other things. They just want to be like, no, it's fucking Hobbiton. It's
Right,
fucking
right.
the Shire,
Hobbit Town.
motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
But it does bring attention to it, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he comes on and he does the Hobbit films as a result of that, but he has to scraps all of Guillermo del Toro's pre-production, and then he has to do his own, but his pre-production is not really pre-production, it's production at that point, because it's most of it is being done
at that
on the
point,
fly. And in these videos, it shows she goes and interviews one of the guys that was the dwarves, because the story is about the dwarves going
it was like Balin or something.
yeah.
He's like a New Zealand.
The one that puts the thing in his ear in order to hear. The dwarf in The Hobbit that can't hear very well, so he puts that little pipe in his ear so he can hear. It's that guy. That actor, she interviews him in this video.
What'd you say?
Exactly. So all these dwarves, the idea was that it was going to be even distribution of roles, like that the dwarves were
think
going to
the
be an
original script
ensemble
was that
cast.
way,
Yeah.
yeah.
And even the book, like not except for the main Thorin or whatever, there's not really a main dwarf that outshines particularly. It's an ensemble cast, really.
Yeah.
And that didn't end up happening as these movies developed. And they
Yeah,
basically,
it's hard for me to even like remember. I remember
there's a couple that are just set dressing. Like there's a couple of those dwarves you don't know fucking shit about them.
Because they're just there. Yeah.
They're just there.
There's the guy who's like Thorin's conscience.
yes,
like,
the older guy, which is great. Yeah.
Balin.
Is it Balin? I feel like that's the guy.
Balin,
Yeah.
Owen.
He's the
Feely,
old one. He's
Feely,
the old one.
Thorin.
Yeah.
I don't. As a kid,
All
I
right,
actually
so
knew
see-
all of their fucking names. It's like 13.
It's it's Sleepy, Dopey,
Dopey.
Doc,
Right.
Grumpy.
Yes.
See, that's the difference between that and Lord of the Rings. That's what I'm saying. Lord of the Rings had such dynamic casting. The characters were incredible.
I think The Hobbit has that. They just don't focus on them.
The casting was solid,
that's what
I
I'm
think.
saying.
Yeah.
It's not that the casting was bad. Is that the characters weren't developed throughout the film, and
It's crazy because each film is like 3 hours long, but it's all action sequences.
And
It's
Lord
like
of the
that's
Rings,
what you
and
get.
all of Lord of the Rings, they take advantage of that. There's
Yeah.
so many stories being told throughout all three films.
Yeah.
There's so many relationships being developed.
And they
throughout
did
all
that
three
with The
films.
Hobbit, but they did it awkwardly.
But they did
like
it-
the Evangeline Lilly
it was broken.
relationship with the dwarf. That was strange the way they did that, and that dwarf looked nothing like a dwarf. He looked like this hot young hunk of a guy, and he's supposed to be a dwarf. The dwarfs, they look ridiculous in all the films. Even the white, there wasn't there like a female dwarf who was like, "No, it's my wife" or whatever, and it looks like a guy.
Yeah, they look like
Yeah, or even the wives, even the women look like dudes.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case with that character. Like Thorin was different. He was fine, but
was
there
him and his brother, I think, look very. Yeah, they had like
literally
less
there was no
dwarfish
prosthetics on the
features.
face.
Yeah,
it was literally like, oh, I guess that's a dwarf, but they looks like a hunk, and it was because they wanted him to hook up with.
they did that a little bit with Thorin. Thorin even had like severely reduced prosthetics.
Yes, but he had some prosthetics, because he was going to be the Aragorn kind of a character. So I was fine with Thorin's character. Honestly, he was a little bit nutso, and I liked his character arc. I was.
It's in the book, but it's like not as prevalent as they make it in the film.
Because they made 3 movies out of a short book.
Yeah, I wish they had just done the 2.
That
Two
was
would've been
probably their
fine.
problem. But that whole Evangeline Lilly, it's interesting because it turns out those were all done in reshoots. That kind of
that story arc was totally fabricated.
Yeah, that romantic
after the
relationship
fact.
kind of thing she had with
It's
it,
true.
and where he dies in her arms
Well,
at the end.
saying that, yeah, we need to add something to this film.
They literally
Yes.
did screen what is it, testing or whatever?
focus groups or whatever,
focus groups.
screen tests. Yeah.
And then they were like, and they did all these questionnaires, and people were like, "Oh, we want to see more like like a love interest." So
Love
they're like,
interest.
"Shit, gotta pull something out of our ass." Like,
Yeah.
let's just add all this shit.
Because there were really no female characters in The Hobbit, so they also wanted to create female characters, which makes sense. The
dragon was a
Hobbit had,
female.
the ones they had.
That actually doesn't bother
naturally.
me. The fact that they added stuff.
I think Evangeline Lilly's character was fine, but the romance part of it did feel like an add-on. When you watch the movies, it kind of goes,
It
"What's the
did.
point of this?"
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to flow with the story. Like,
Here's
why are they
what
doing
was
this?
fucked up for me that I noticed this before anybody pointed it out to me. Like, I mean, it was pointed out later in some of these retrospectives that I watched on The Hobbit. But I watched the what is it? The Battle of the Five Armies.
Yeah,
the final
the
film.
last one.
And the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems, it just shows you how crazy this movie is. Thorin dies in Bilbo's arms.
Yes,
Thorin, the main character,
Yes,
Bilbo, one of the main characters, dies.
both main characters. Yeah,
What immediately follows that?
the love interest.
The love interest dying.
Yeah.
Which is so jarring because you're like, this is an add-on,
Yeah.
and they're putting more precedent on that scene, on that death,
Yeah.
than the fucking guy that this whole thing is about.
And that dwarf is not important beyond the romance.
Yes,
really.
like nothing
He's
he
just-
does is
true,
important
no.
except for that like romantic. And I'm like, this is so like it felt weird when I saw it in the theaters. I
And
was
they were
like,
given
this is
just as
wrong.
much screen time as the death of the main characters, whereas
Yeah.
you didn't see any other character. The other ones that died, the other dwarves that died, kind of just died unceremoniously, really
Yeah.
quick. And it just seemed very much like, why are you spending so much time on this thing except for you're trying to
Tie
force
it-
feed it to us a little bit.
And even like the
weird.
scene where like Bilbo leaves the dwarves, they're all just standing there, and Bilbo's like walking away. He's just like bye,
like, bye, and,
Like there's no grand. We went on this adventure. We survived together. I saved your life. You saved my life.
And we're a
Let's-
team and we're better for it.
Yeah.
and we,
Yeah, like
we
nothing.
forged a bond.
Literally, he just walks away, and he's
Yeah.
back in Hobbit.
You know, the
Town.
only-
And you're
Thorin,
like,
Thorin was the only one that mattered
was
to him.
jarring.
Like
That's-
Thorin was the only one that mattered to him.
You know the
Yeah.
best part of The Hobbit, all 3 of them,
Yeah.
was the video that came out with Benedict Cumberbatch doing
Crawling
the dragon.
around.
Oh, when he's crawling around.
That
with
was
his singer. Yeah, and he was
amazing.
great.
That may have been my favorite part, actually. Of the
Riddles
whole
in the Dark
thing.
was really good though too. Riddles in the Dark with
Oh, that's
Gollum
another
in
interesting
the first
thing.
one.
So in the
was really
original book, the first release of The Hobbit,
Yeah.
that came out
Yeah.
like the 30s. That entire chapter, at the end of that chapter, Gollum is just some weirdo creature that he bumps into, and there's no significance for the ring. There was no Lord of the Rings thought of. The ring didn't mean anything. It was just a magic ring, just for fun because
Yeah.
it's a kid's story. In that story, he finishes he gets all the riddles, and then Gollum gives him the ring.
Yeah,
It's
there's
like,
no
"Oh, you won."
obsession with it. There's no obsession with it.
Yeah, this whole
particularly.
thing of him finding the ring, that
Oh,
was all
yeah.
changed later to tie into the Lord of the Rings,
Right.
because the original Hobbit book, people are like, oh, well, the Hobbit gradually flows into Lord. No, it didn't originally. Like J.R.R. Tolkien went back and altered all these things about the Hobbit
To
so
make
that
it-
it connected, because they both take place in Middle Earth, but
Right.
they're like 60 years apart, or the events are 60 years apart.
Yeah.
Anyway, that to me was crazy.
Yep.
And then anyway,
And then there's the heavy reliance on CG. Is an issue,
Overuse.
but it's overuse, and it seemed rushed in certain
Yeah.
scenes. Like if you look at the original Lord of the Rings films, there was a lot more practical effects going on, and the CG is used lightly, and when it's used, it looks like it's pretty well
Yeah.
done.
I think they were under pressure, though. I think they would have done more CG if he could have. I got
Right.
that because when I
but then they
saw
were
King
putting-
Kong,
they were
I
under
was like,
pressure to-
King
I
Kong.
I don't
Kong
think
too.
so because
They were put
Return
under-
of the
they were
King,
under
there was a
pressure in
lot.
Hobbit
You
too,
saw
by the way.
Peter
Return of the
Jackson's
King
King
had
Kong.
a lot.
Yeah,
It did, but it's not done in a way that feels like a disconnect. It's probably just the quality of CG. If you watch The Hobbit, there's entire scenes that feels like maybe it's the battle scenes with like the dwarves in the water.
Yeah.
That seems very CG heavy.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
That scene goes on for like.
But it's the
20
thing that
minutes.
where,
It's like
where
crazy.
the CG and the Return
I don't
of the
hate
King.
the scene, but it's very CG heavy. It doesn't feel.
But it does this thing where it's like which was brought up in this retrospective that we watched by Lindsay Ellis. She brings up this point of like, can these characters die? Or are they cartoon characters? Like, are they just?
Yeah.
Can they just bounce in a barrel down a fucking hill?
Don't
and
they have
like,
skin and
they're
organs?
invulnerable to anything?
They have skin and organs, and
That was the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, is there a threat to their life? Like, are you concerned for their well being, or are they like rubber?
yeah, they fall
Yeah.
down through
Because
the
they're
trees,
and that's jarring in these movies. Like,
No, it's see, and what I was saying about the animation in Return of the King is like it was beautiful. The last battle, it was just so realistic, and it was done so well. The animation fit so perfectly with the story. When you see the battle, then you see no animation. You see the king talking in a different area. They gave you a break from all that animation when you needed to. Everything was done beautifully. The Hobbit, yeah. I don't know if it was something that like we were talking about earlier where it was filmed a certain way and because they decided to step back from the 48 frame because some of the stuff was filmed together.
Yeah.
It wasn't working well or something. It felt like I was like, "Oh, this is almost a video game quality or look to it." And it
the
felt
48
just-
frames definitely made that.
yeah.
So I don't know if them deciding to step back from that because it got ridiculed so bad on the second and third film that it affected the quality of the second and third film. Because the first film had great quality, and the third film had great quality when it came to the dragon itself.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
thought
even-
Smile.
Oh,
Was
the second
really
film, right?
well.
Desolation of
Second
Smaug,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, it did great, but everything else kind of fell apart.
Right.
You know, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really.
It's hard to decide. I see the things that are being talked about that this went wrong, this isn't wrong. But it's hard to decide what made the film not as successful as the first three series.
Right.
Except for the main thing that comes to mind is the fact that I've been there. Lord, the first argument was so epic. I feel like when I was watching, I know it was like I was prejudging the film before I watched it, where I would say, I had something so epic before, I doubt that you're going to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I think it is though? Like you can look at all these technical aspects of it and how they failed things. There was studio involvement that put pressure on it and everything else. You could do all that, or you could just go down to the most basic reason why The Lord of the Rings is better than The Hobbit is because The Lord of the Rings story
Is better.
better than The Hobbit.
It is.
The Hobbit was a children's book. It was small. It was fun. And that's it. It didn't have all the stakes that the Lord of the Rings had.
Yeah.
It didn't have the source material itself was never as exciting. You know, if you're going to adapt, fucking the Godfather book into a movie, that's going to be better than adapting Twilight into a movie.
Yeah, we're going
One story is just
I-
better than the other.
I was literally just gonna say that, but then at the same time, like The Hobbit is has sold like 100 million copies like in its lifetime. It's still in print today.
I've
like,
read it. I've never
90
read Lord of
years
the
later
Rings.
or 100
I've read
years
The
later.
Hobbit though more than once.
Yeah, so
yeah,
have I.
like,
So have
but I read
it
them all as a
multiple
kid. I
times.
did read them as a kid, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, it's a great story. And regardless of if you didn't compare the two,
Yeah.
which everybody's going to do no matter what, but
Oh,
if you
of course.
could, if you didn't compare them, there's, and you just read the book and then you watch those films,
Right.
you're going to be unhappy. I think,
Yeah.
you're going to be like, it was entertaining. I was entertained.
Yeah, because I wasn't
But
I wasn't
ultimately-
disappointed. I don't want to even use that word.
Yeah.
I was just sort of
I don't
like
cringe when I watch
You wanted
them. I
more.
enjoy the film.
You
Yes.
wanted more.
I was like Lord of the Rings.
I wanted
Are-
less
is-
actually. I wanted them to cut some of that shit out.
I'm like Lord of the Rings
No,
is
no, no,
operating
I'm
on-
saying-
I feel like
The-
they've given
the-
us too much, and it's not good.
It's the like the feelings and everything that you felt throughout Lord of the Rings.
I wanted
first three.
that, but then I realized I'm not going to get that from The Hobbit.
and and then you just like, and I
Yeah.
think like after the first one, I honestly thought that they weren't going to make three.
Yeah.
I honestly thought they weren't going to make.
I
it
was
because they
super
were
excited for when I heard they were doing 3 instead of 2. I was like, oh my god.
So was
this
I.
is gonna
And when
be
Peter
so
Jackson
good.
came in, I was excited. Peter Jackson was
How
back.
could you go wrong? And
I was like, Guillermo del Toro is fine, but like, I'm like, Peter Jackson is the one who created Lord of the Rings. He can't go. Like, you can't go wrong.
For me, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was a little disappointed with the first film. I thought it was good, but I was kind of like, oh, that was all right.
Yeah.
The second one, actually, it liked. Except for they bring in the heavy love thing. They start that in that film.
Yeah.
But I loved all the scenes with Smaug. Like I love the end of that movie, even though it goes on and it's totally unrealistic that they're like swimming in lava or whatever the fuck happens at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But I love all that, the whole dialogue and like Thorin and Smaug and Bilbo. Like that was great, and I like the way it ends, where he like leaves to head towards. Like I thought that was a great climax. Battle of Five Armies for me is just like that whole movie is just a hot mess.
Yeah.
That whole movie from beginning to end is just wrong. Like, how did this go so wrong?
Do they have extended editions?
Did they? Yeah, they did.
They do.
They did make extended editions.
Oh yeah,
Are they good? Have you watched them? I'm curious to.
It doesn't change the core of the film. They just add additional.
Do you guys
scenes.
want
Yeah, I'm
to?
just wondering if it makes.
The things aren't like.
I
shift-
actually might own
You
them on
really?
Blu-ray. I gotta.
No,
go
I
look.
have.
I might have the
I
extended
have all
editions.
3 in like 3D extended, all that shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
What
go-
do you mean? Of course.
I mean, no.
Dude.
Do you want to?
Seymour.
Oh yes,
Seymour?
I would watch it. Just to,
I would.
Just to be
I'm
like.
curious because sometimes adding more, though, you think like if you do it the right way, maybe it makes it better. I don't know.
You
I'm
know
just
what?
curious.
I don't think they changed anything. I think
Okay.
they simply extended.
Right,
I like
got it.
Prometheus a lot more after the 8 hours from the DVD.
Yeah, I never.
Yeah,
I
it
haven't
does
seen
make a
that.
difference
Yeah.
seeing some of that.
It made
but
a lot
8
of
hours
it
part.
was great.
Watching this, when you watch the behind the scenes on The Hobbit, actually, it feels more of a promotion of New Zealand than it does the behind the scenes on The Hobbit. It does actually. Have you guys watched them?
No.
They're like showcases for all these locations, these remote.
Well, I've seen the
locations in
video
New Zealand.
journals that he was releasing beforehand, but I don't think that's. the
No,
same.
no, the video journals were like their own. You can
Yeah.
watch those. I think those are all
On
the,
YouTube.
on the extended.
They're also on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, these are issues obviously that went wrong with the Hobbit, and it's like you say Lord of the Rings, it was really good because they were under pressure. They were under pressure with the Hobbit as well. Like that was the reason why it was so fucking rushed, is because they had these deadlines and they were like, we have to fucking make these or else. And it was like,
Honestly, I'm surprised. Like once you realize how much pressure they're under, I'm surprised the films are like as decent as they
I know
are.
the fact that he was laying
Really.
the tracks right in front of the train. That's just a testament to
Like,
how good Peter
building
Jackson
sets,
is. Like
building
those movies
props.
should have been trash with that kind of a setup. That kind of.
It's funny you say
production
that line because of his new film.
What? Oh, the what is it? Something.
It's the Cities on Wheels.
Yeah. He's producing.
Oh yeah,
one,
did
right?
that come out already or no?
No. it's
No,
on there.
and he's not directing.
Engine
that. He's
World, World Engine.
Mortal Engines.
Mortal Engines.
Yeah,
that's
he's
right.
producing that, not directing.
He's
it, though.
producing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's these are issues. Obviously, I don't think they'll run into Lord of the Rings, other than the fact that
The Amazon show.
the Amazon show. But they are putting a lot of money into it, and they don't have a lot of time to get the show done. I don't think. What is it? 2 years? The
But
rights
here's
revert.
Well, Oh, no, they just bang out a season. All they need to do is start filming and like actually produce a show.
But that first season needs to be fucking incredible, and it needs to tie in, and it's going to affect the second season. So it's got to be right though. You can't just be like, oh, it's fine. You just need to get it out there. That's what they did with The Hobbit.
You know what's so
But see,
interesting?
that's
have
not
to
what they're
avoid
doing.
that.
That's not what they're doing.
The Tolkien
with the
family
show, though.
shopped
Yeah.
the rights to HBO first, and HBO didn't. They were like,
Yeah.
no, we don't want to
They
pay
have Game of
this
Thrones
money. We're
anyways.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Game of Thrones, but also I think it was like money. Like,
Yeah,
we don't want to
yeah.
invest this money. That
The
we would
HBO's
need to
no
invest.
Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
terms
They're
of
no
money,
fucking
yeah.
Amazon.
And
Then they went
Netflix-
to Netflix. Netflix was interested, but then I think they just lost out to Jeff Bezos, who apparently he secured the deal personally.
Yeah.
With the family. He was like,
Yeah, he went dressed as a dwarf.
Did he?
Yeah, or
No,
was
he
it an orc?
didn't.
It was an orc. Yeah,
Are
he
you
went,
fucking serious?
No, that'd be amazing though,
I'm
wouldn't it?
like making this shit.
He could
up.
pull off an orc.
He could totally
That
pull
bald
off an
head,
arc,
that
yeah.
cue ball head.
Yeah. Isn't
Yeah.
he like all, I like the before and after. It's like Elon Musk before and after.
I know they all look like complete dorks.
They do.
They look like me at 17.
Well, it's like Bill Gates, and he's like posing with the PC like it's a Playboy cover
Right.
or something. Anyway.
Yeah, so I think if they as long as they don't.
I think if they get good writers.
Yes, good
I think
writers
it's-
and the
it's not-
pre-production.
See, that's the thing that they
got to
are
be
doing.
good with the
There's
pre-production.
so many directors out there now that do television that are just incredible. Like
They do.
once they understand what it is you want and the style you want and like the flow of the show,
I just hope they don't tell the same story. Like it's apparently the Lord of the Rings show, so I'm like, it's gonna be the same story, is it not?
I think they should tell stories
It
that
is
tie
tied.
in
They're gonna
during
have
the
to do that.
events.
It is
of the
tied
Lord of
in.
the
If they
Rings.
call the show Middle Earth, I can maybe like, okay, they're gonna do a lot more than just Lord of the Rings. They're gonna create their own stories. They're gonna use the Silmarillion and all that.
So we had this when they first announced this, like, or the possibility that they were going to do a show like a year or 6 months ago or
Yeah.
something. I think we talked about this briefly. I was like, what would be amazing is if they kind of start in a bunch of nobodies in the middle of nowhere who end up getting caught up in an adventure, and it's a total side thing, and then like the season finale, like they bump into like Frodo
Yeah.
or Sam or fucking
Yeah.
Aragorn.
I mean, they're gonna
like
recast
Vigo's
these guys.
there. No, don't recast. They gotta bring.
They're not.
him.
They can't. Vigo's an older dude now. He's like in his mid-50s or whatever now. Have you seen him?
Don't fucking Anthony Hopkins his face up and shit. Oh, Westworld, that motherfucker. Like I don't care.
Yeah, I don't.
Although I read
They
that
could
what's
do
his
Andy
name doesn't
Serkis.
want to be involved. Andy
No, he
Serkis,
doesn't.
He's
Yeah,
like, I'm
he's
done.
yeah, he's
Did you
done.
know he was the second unit director on the Hobbit?
The Hobbit,
films?
yeah.
He shot. He literally is the
Yeah.
one that filmed most of those films.
That's cool.
With Peter Jackson.
Yeah, and is Peter Jackson's producing this show, right?
No,
he's
he
in
got
talks
sent
to
out.
be connected.
He
to
got
it.
sent out a letter of invitation. Basically, they would love to have his input consultation.
a consultant.
A consultant. If he wants to.
He's
they
like,
would love
nah,
to do it.
mate.
Yeah.
I'm good.
He's like,
It's
bro,
tough,
is this
man.
my?
I mean,
Six
can you
movies.
imagine? Like, he's probably spent like 10 years of his life working in this universe, or
Yeah.
12 years of his life doing
Which
nothing.
made,
but still,
it
like-
made him like the name and the entity he is.
It also,
But
it
it's
defined
draining.
New Zealand.
He lost
you
like
know?
150 pounds in stress.
No, I don't think those were connected.
No, but he's right.
150
But he's a lot thin. He
He
was a lot thinner.
denied. He denied. People thought that because they saw the before and after, but he denied. He was like, "No, I was on a diet. Like,
I know.
I didn't lose all that weight because I was up 24 hours a day, like editing this
That was
movie
my
to make this Oscar masterpiece."
That was my piss poor effort to make a joke.
Although I feel like he's lying. Yeah, I think,
He's
I
alive.
think-
Fucking- he's a coke addict. Come on, he's a fucking total cokehead. No.
What the fuck?
Let's start that rumor now.
Cocaine originated in New Zealand. If you didn't know that.
Sure did. Bunch of criminals. Australia, New
That's a
Zealand.
joke.
No.
Oh wait.
I'm making all this
Oh
up.
no, Australia. Yeah.
Yeah. Land of the criminal.
Wow.
It's not true. Though.
Nothing good is gonna go. We love New Zealand and Australia.
fucking
even
wanna
though
go
we've
to
never
both
been.
places.
I want to go to both.
America's terrible.
Hey guys,
Although
New Zealand
before-
just logged off.
Before Lord of the Rings came out, I wanted to go to Australia more because of Crocodile
Dundee.
But now if I
Crocodile
do go
Dundee.
to either of the two, it's probably New Zealand first.
New Zealand.
Because I know. But they're like
Sorry,
a skip and
Australia.
a jump, right?
Sorry, Australia.
I don't know. I'm excited for the show. I heard a lot of good things.
Yeah.
I think Amazon is doing some right things. They're trying to invite and they're hiring people who are really good.
Man in the High Tower.
And with
It's a
how much
great
money
show.
they're putting into it, they don't want it
They
to fail.
don't want it to fail.
So they're banking on
But
this.
I will
I-
say dumping money into Hollywood a film project is not a guarantee of quality.
There's no
not.
guarantee. Yeah, no, it's
Definitely is not.
When it comes to a movie, it comes down to the viewers.
Yep.
It's like a fucking social media post.
$1 billion
you post it.
into a
Hopefully,
television show. That's crazy.
look,
Yeah.
it's
Production value.
it's
though.
Amazon's last ditch to stay alive.
No.
I'm just totally fucking with you. No, I think
I don't, when I think of like digital streaming in my mind, I'm not like, oh, I got to pop on Amazon Prime to see the new awesome hit shows. Like I go to HBO
But see,
or I go to Netflix.
this is not what I'm worried about. I think it's
Although I
awesome
do
that
love
they're doing
Man in
that.
the High Castle.
Yeah,
honestly.
Prime Video is pretty.
I hope-
mean, it's
yeah, Man
what
in the
is
High
it?
Castle is a
Amazon
great show.
Prime Video. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not.
No, they have really good stuff
really
on
do.
They
there.
have great
do.
series,
They
yeah.
do.
But my concern is that it's not anything having to do with Lord of the Rings. I feel like hopefully they don't try to cap on the
They
end
will.
of Game of Thrones and try to be another Game of Thrones. I hope they don't. I hope they just.
Oh, yeah,
you
I
know,
hope. Well,
they're investing on some right people that I've seen as of right now. So, and I think that was cool of them to send a letter of invitation to Peter Jackson. That's awesome. So that sounds like they're taking the right steps, even though I'm kind of concerned that maybe they should have kept Guillermo del Toro for The Hobbit.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. But my concern is more that
although he is doing H.P. Lovecraft film now, finally. Mountains of Madness, which is something he's been wanting to do for like 20 years.
Wow.
my concern is the fact that Amazon is dropping they're dropping a lot of money on productions. Apple is coming out with a huge show, and they're coming out with their own streaming services.
Are they?
All these, yeah. Apple is dropping. They're
I
dropping a
heard
lot of
about
money
that.
on this huge series.
They don't need to.
Yeah, and so it's my thing is like it's going back to why this thing the streaming when it first started, why it was not picked up very well until Netflix came in, because everybody tried to do it separately.
Yeah.
And just you don't have people are not going to pay $10 here, $10, $10, and all these different services.
They're gonna have. I just read that Disney is coming out with their
Disney's.
Oh, that's huge.
That's,
No,
that's another one.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
Disney's
acquiring
coming
Fox
out
because they own
Yeah.
Fox. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Disney.
and Marvel and Star Wars and all their own properties.
Exactly. Yeah, and Disney's coming out
They're
with
gonna
their
pull
own
Rogue
stuff.
One off of Netflix, man.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, they're pulling all
100%.
their Disney things
Yeah.
and all the Fox things are leaving
Yeah,
Netflix.
Disney, the Marvel stuff
Why
are
don't they
coming
just
off.
buy Netflix like it's fucking Disney? They have trillions of dollars.
Once the contracts for the Marvel shows on Netflix ends, they can't do anymore. So that's my whole thing. Now we're having all these separate entities, which goes back to people are going to start people are going to start flipping back to cable, where you have this whole package deal and you get all these
I
things.
don't know, man.
So it's
I think people are you're gonna have you're gonna have sections of like the population where like I'm a Netflix person or I'm an Amazon person or I'm a Disney Flix person or whatever the fuck they're gonna call it. And they're just gonna be, and then there's gonna be a small percentage of people who have all of them who are just gonna pay for everything.
Yeah, but I feel like they're not going to be. Netflix is strong. I don't think Netflix has to worry about, and they've become a household name now.
They have
they're
how
just a
many
standard.
active subscribers?
Yeah. Oh,
Monthly
like,
subscribers?
I don't know.
They haven't released it, but
It's literally like $1 billion a month or something.
yeah.
It's-
Oh
it's
no, they
just
have released. Yeah,
crazy.
I think if they have 50 million users, that's $10 a month. That's unbelievable.
It's
That's
half $1
$5
billion.
Yeah, but
a month.
they got more than that. I think they're clearing $1 billion a month in just.
Oh, they're cleaning so much. I mean, look at the shows, the money they're putting out for shows. It's just crazy. It's just
So
phenomenal.
that's the future, man. And it's
So-
these long form shows and Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I want to see it. I want to see it. I
yeah.
don't think anything will ever equal that experience of those first 3 films for me. I don't think it'll, no matter how good the show is. That's just for me because that's why it just hit at the right moment. I have a special affinity for it.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be that. But
Well, it's like that
I'll be able
saying.
to appreciate Lord of the Rings. What's the saying?
It's like that saying, you can never go home again.
Yes, it's true.
Because it isn't there.
Yeah, even if it is physically there, it'll never be there.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't go into the past, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I was thinking, I come home every day.
No,
It
it's
went over his head. It went over his
metaphorical.
head.
Like you have your childhood, and you can never go back to your childhood because it's not
It went over
there.
Lenny's head.
It doesn't
Just
exist.
let it go. Let's
It's
bring him
only
out in the
in your
middle of the
mind.
woods.
All
Wait,
right.
wait, wait.
You
Are
know,
you saying
we're getting metaphysical here?
Wait, I don't want to go back in my mom's womb. Is that where we're going?
Not that far back, man. I don't know. Maybe for some people it's a good experience. I don't know. But yeah. Anyway.
I hope all goes well. I want to see some good characters.
Yeah.
I love watching some good storylines. I love watching some
I
good
think,
characters.
yeah.
Just use the Hobbit as
And
a
I'm
cautionary tale. That's all I would say for the show.
Yeah, that's smart. I think that with the right producers and the right screenwriters, they could actually flesh out a really interesting storyline for 5 years. That ties into this universe. It doesn't, and it can like lightly connect to the events of maybe the Hobbit or into Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be completely
It doesn't.
disconnected.
Yeah, we don't need like, the adventures of young Aragorn, like young Indiana Jones or something. Although they might do that. I
They
don't know.
probably will.
Little Frodo.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I actually, now that I think about it, recast everybody. Don't bring anyone back.
Yeah, it'll be
Start
too connected
fresh.
in our heads if we try
Yeah.
and do that.
Have them young, maybe do flash forwards, flashbacks, steal shit from Lost, steal shit from all the great shows,
Oh, the
make
Dragon
something
Eye.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have Smaug exist.
Yeah.
Tell stories, because there are always like all these hints in that universe of there being other dragons
Yeah.
and other threats that they never really, that Tolkien hints at but doesn't flesh out. Like,
Exactly.
flesh that shit out.
Flesh out the little stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that people
It would be
wouldn't
cool if they
expect.
did the same thing that
Hobbits and the
Star
dwarves.
Wars just did and create like a Rogue One, the other
Yeah.
side of the war.
Yeah, that was taken from one line, right? Rogue One was taken from one line in the
Yeah.
original
And-
movie. So just
yeah.
do that. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
A lot of people lost their lives.
I
get
tell you
this
what, let's
information.
Exactly.
let's
That's
just
the
end
whole
this
movie.
podcast. Let's just end this podcast, and we'll go over there to Amazon, and we'll just tell them we got.
Yeah,
this.
they're right in our
We'll just-
backyard.
they're just
Yeah.
right. They're right
There
there.
you go.
No,
Didn't they just raise the price, or they're getting ready to raise the price of
what?
Amazon Prime?
Yeah, it's to like $11.99 or
120.
13. For the year. I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like $119. Yep.
Yeah.
99. Yeah.
To me, it's worth
Getting
that.
that Lord of the Rings money, man. They'll have made their money back on this price
Just in
hike.
1 month, just by raising the price a few bucks.
Are they raising their price because they put out so much money for Lord of the Rings?
Probably.
I'll be pissed at that
They've
point.
already committed
Like,
all that money. That money's spent,
bitch,
man. They
I
gave
got
it
a
to
camera. You
Tolkien's
should have just
family.
hired me, man.
No, who's winning here really is Tolkien's family.
Oh, yeah.
They're the ones who are really.
He set him up for life, man.
All right, so I was gonna say I'm excited, but I'm not gonna say that. I'm concerned. I'm kind of holding back, but I want to see good things. I want to see a good storyline.
It's-
I hope it does well.
That's kind of an unknown because
is.
Netflix has been successful. So they proved that they can make something really great, but
Yeah.
No,
Amazon
Amazon.
hasn't so much.
No.
I mean, they've made good
And the
stuff,
High
but
Castle.
yeah.
Netflix put. Just to end it on this note with Netflix, they have other formulas going on in different countries that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah.
Where they have this show in some country in South America, where they're putting out, they're testing the formula of putting out an episode per week
Right.
Oh, instead of just dumping all.
instead of dumping all.
Yeah, they won't do that. They're going to dump entire seasons. I think they'll continue that model because it sets them apart.
Yeah, that's their whole.
Yeah.
That's literally a cultural phenomenon. People that are like,
Yeah.
a show will
Yeah.
launch on Netflix.
I
and
think
then you just
they'll. I
hit
think they'll
play and
continue
then,
to do that.
you know,
No,
you
that's
don't
fine. But I
sleep.
mean, if they continue to do that, that means they have to create a lot of show. They have to keep putting out a
They're
lot
doing
of
it,
money.
though.
So
They're doing it, yeah.
but when these other, when Disney comes in, when all these other network comes in, can they keep up with that?
Right.
Because they're putting out.
Did
so
you
much
guys
so
ever
fast.
binge anything before Netflix?
Only on marathon days. Like
Yeah.
They did a marathon show.
I
A
don't
series
remember.
or show or
Netflix,
whatever.
I feel like, is destroying our culture now that I think about it. I feel like people are out
technology's
being
destroying our
productive.
humanity.
Netflix.
People
What?
I remember it used to be productive, and now I'm like, oh, fuck, this new show's out. I better, Lost in Space is out. I better binge
Oh
this
shit!
shit.
I haven't paid my rent in 4 months, or changed my underwear.
Fucking Netflix, but I did pay that Netflix.
I thought you died.
That's the most
Yeah,
important
you gotta
thing.
keep that Netflix on. Fuck the lights. You need the Netflix on.
Oh hell yeah! So
We got a generator for the Netflix.
they get my money.
Yeah.
They get my money. So thank you guys for joining us here at Get to the Podcast. Let's get to the podcast with the number 2. My name is Diego D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
And I'm Schmiegel.
That's not right.
And I'm Schmiegel.
That's not right either. But wait, no, what's that? The Misty Mountains. Misty Mountains go. That's one of my favorite scenes in the Hobbit.
Oh, yeah. And the song's in the book.
yeah. But it was performed very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We must away at break of day. I love the cartoon, actually.
Yeah, so did
The
I.
cartoon was my favorite.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.